Okay, great. And so today we will be discussing what the topic having it all means to our speakers, and we'll be asking them how they handle parenthood and also career. We are bringing up this topic since there are many women at the moment that might be feeling that they, enjoy their career. They want to work on their career, but they also consider starting their family. So for many of us, including actually myself, this can still be a big question. How do you handle this all? So let's hear from the women that we invited here who have been there, and we would like to know about their experience. So I'm honored to welcome here Kristin Parpel, who is executive coach and leadership consultant with over 25 years of experience in various corporations. Hi, Kristin.
Hi, ladies. Nice to see you all. At least I can see some of you. Hi.
And then we have Tereza Bardi, who is a director at Deloitte Consulting, who leads shared services and finance process excellence advisory team. Hi, Tereza.
Hi, and diversity and inclusion for Czech Republic as well.
Oh, great.
Hi, everyone. Hello.
And then last but not least, we have Renata Dvorakova, who is a country lead at Oracle. Hi, Renata.
Hi, thank you, Lucia, and I hope that you will spend a nice time with us.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for being here. So let's start with the first question. The first question is, can women have it all? And what actually having it all means to you, to the speakers? And let's start first with Tereza.
Oops, you didn't tell me that I will be the first. So yeah, let me kick off this wonderful topic. And thank you very much for the question. I was thinking about it, and it was, as Kristin also said, it was very emotional and maybe sometimes difficult to get back to these years. I'm mom of 8-year-old boy. I'm married to an Italian, which I'm Czech originally. So this is another family, and another aspect of having it all. Sometimes a lot of all. Then yeah, I'm 11 years, starting my 11th year at Deloitte in a consulting male-dominated environment still. And all my professional career being in finance. I try to have time for myself as well. I have hobbies. I have parents in Czech Republic and in Italy, and I have friends. I have my social environment, my responsibilities. So what it means having it all for myself, when I was like reflecting on that, I believe that it's very individual, and we will see that through the course of today. For me, having it all means to have all the things that I need to have a good life with purpose. So this is how I define it for myself, and it definitely is something completely different than the others have, and each of us is really unique in this. When I was thinking about the roles that are really setting my all, at first it's being a good person, so having taking care of myself, having respect for myself, and having also a purpose for my life. So this is the first. The second one is being a good mother and to provide to my son environment to grow and to learn. Third one is being a good wife and to be a partner and soulmate for my husband. A fourth one is the one that is related to work, and that's having purpose and being useful on this planet. And the fifth one is some kind of how I define it for myself, abundance. So to have enough to be good, and so to have a good food, have a good good car maybe, to spend holidays in a nice and interesting place. But this fifth point I consider as something that can be cut off, and I can live without it. So these 4 points above what I mentioned are this all for me, and I try to have it all as possible.
What about you, Renata? How do you define what having it all means to you? And do you think that women can have it all?
Yeah, it was the most difficult question that I was thinking about. I talked to my sister about the question, and I told her, I don't think that I have it all. And she said, yes, you have it all except the partner. So I am 15 years in Oracle. I went through different positions. I have 2 sons. One of them is 2 weeks adult, and the second one is already 3 years adult. So big boys. And I was married 18 years, and 5 years I'm divorced. And the partnership life is something that I'm missing. And now in pandemic, it's not kind of, I just put it aside because I think that it's difficult to meet someone in these days. And what I am happy to have, I have a good job, which makes me happy. I have a network in IT and among the clients. Some of them are my friends. And I have also friends outside of this network, so some very close friends. And I have a good relationship with my kids and good relationship with my ex-husband. So I have people to rely on, and when I struggle with something, I always know whom to call. And this applies also to work. When I struggle, I have my network, and I can connect to them when I need help. So it's not about material things, even though I am happy that I don't have a mortgage any longer, and I have my own flat. So that's about me.
Thanks for sharing. And last but not least, Kristin, what are your thoughts?
Okay, hi. First, Tereza and then Renata, thank you. I could agree and connect with a lot of the things you say. I think I'm older than a lot of you on this call. I turned 50 over the summer, and that does help. That's why I think I'm real passionate. I'm very, very passionate about mentoring because, one of the things that could have helped me when I had, when I got married nearly 20 years ago is if someone had just shared with me. Nobody's going to tell me what to do because we all have different experiences. And as Tereza said, we all have different wishes and dreams. But I just want to share with you one of the things that I've noticed over the years, and I share with a lot of the people that I work with, men and women, is that we have something which I call life stages. And those stages in our life focus on different things. So when you're a teenager, it's usually education. When you're 0 to 10, it's your parents, right? Your family. That's the biggest thing. You want to spend as much time with your parents as you can. And then as you get into your teenage years, it's about your friends and your connections and your school. And then, we finish school a bit earlier in the States, but your 20s is starting to build your career, your independence. And then your 30s really gets into a deep dive, and then you start thinking about family. So there's these stages. And from my own personal experience, yes, I want to tell you the answer is that you can have it all. Yes, I don't want anyone to feel. I really questioned, and we're gonna talk about that question later, how I was gonna have it all. But remember that you might not be looking at a lifetime horizon, but you might be saying, what do I want in the next 5 years? And what am I going to do to get there? Okay, now the next 5 years, where am I? I mean, in my 20s, I worked my ass off. I mean, I didn't have that fun, young, wild. I mean, I worked weekends, I worked nights, and it was totally worth it. I was completely out of my comfort zone, completely exhausted in many ways, and very stressed at times, but it was all worth it because that was the time where my work came first. And then when I had kids, my kids came first. And as my kids are now, I have a 15-year-old and a 17-year-old. So in a couple of years, I'll be off to university. So I get to be selfish again. So what are those things I didn't get to fulfill? So I want to say, do I believe you can have it all? Yes. But I also believe that you sometimes have to put things in the forefront. You know, your priorities are going to change, and it doesn't mean it's forever. The thing that definitely helps me is my network as well. I'm involved in a lot of mentoring programs, usually as a mentor. Last year I was actually a mentee, but the community helps. Good friends, family. I mean, I think we all know health does come first, whether we want to put it first or not, because if we're sick, we can't work, we can't function. So I have a loving husband, but of course it's been challenging. We're together for nearly 30 years. So it's been challenging over the years. I have my kids, but one of the things that I did find, and we will talk about it later, so I don't want to take too much time now, but if I don't have something for me, and Tereza, I don't even know if you realize that you started with saying, I have to take care of myself. And I was like, wow, that's so good. Because one of the things I need to be happy and to take care of myself is my career. And it's a different career than it was 20 years ago. And there are reasons for that. We'll talk about it later. But yes, I want to say to you, yes, you can have it all, but you have to be the one to manage it. It's on you. Nobody else is going to come manage it for you. Nobody's going to read your mind. HR isn't going to come to you. Your partner, your husband, everyone's in their own stuff. So it's really up to you to manage what you want and when. That's it for me for now.
Thank you. We can actually dig a bit deeper, and I would like to ask you, Kristin, have you ever found yourself at the intersection of parenthood and career? And how did you approach it? And is there anything you would do differently?
Oh my God, it was so ugly, guys. It was so awful. It was so painful when I think about it. And it was really hard. I was just, you know, I knew the questions in advance and I was like, oh shit, God, wish it could have been easier. But in my 20s, I was here in Prague. I was here in the 90s and there were lots of opportunities and actually wound up getting a really good job, right place, right time, and a lot of hard work. But it was a completely different time as it is now. And I ended up being at the age of 26, the CEO of an American company here, which is, yes, is absurd. But, you know, I was the one who put my hand up and said I wanted it. And I did it and I succeeded. It cost me, I would say, for those years in my 20s, it was my entire life. But the payback was that after I proved myself, I got to go to headquarters in New York and get, you know, some big fluffy job, you know, at 30. And I'm like, wow, how did I get here so quickly? And I was really happy when I got there. I was really proud of myself. And, you know, I had some expectations. I had some expectations that, you know, I was going to get to New York City and it was going to be like, you know, Sex in the City. And there was going to be like all these girlfriends. And we're going to have fun and we're going to go out at night. And, you know, I was in Prague in a very, very male-dominated community, work-wise, business-wise. And not only was it male, but it was also double my age. So I was like hanging out with my father and my uncles all the time. So I couldn't wait to get back to New York and have fun. And the surprise to me was when I got there, the women that I was surrounded with, very, very successful, you know, global CEO or top management roles. We're all making a lot of money. We traveled all the time. It seemed from the outside really great. But what I realized was that these women were not role models for me. They weren't role models in the lifestyle they had, and they weren't really role models as people either, because they weren't very nice. And they were very competitive, and it was such a surprising shock to me. And, you know, I was in a really good position, and my boyfriend, so the guy that I married, we were together for 8 years. We took a trip around the world. For 1 year, I went back to New York. He stayed in Prague because my husband owns a company here. So he couldn't leave. He couldn't leave in time. I mean, he couldn't leave his company here after our trip. So I went back to New York, and, you know, he was 3 years younger. So I thought, okay, I guess I'll meet someone else. I guess nothing's going on with it. But I knew that he was really like the love of my life. So I got back to New York, had this great job, got set up. And, you know, he came to New York and said, I think we should get married. And I thought, you asshole, like, why didn't you ask me before I left Prague? You know, well, here I am. And I said, okay. And I really, really struggled with, do I want to go backwards? Do I want to go back to Prague or do I and be with the man of the love of my life, or stay in New York and build my career? And it was when I was 31 years old. And it was really, really tough because I was going to be giving up a lot. And there was no way I could copy paste the job I had in New York back to Prague. And I also had this really weird thing. I mean, I never thought I was an egomaniac, but I guess I was a little bit, because I had this problem of what people were going to think of me. Like, what if I came back to Prague after being in New York? People were going to think I failed. Now, between all of us, like, nobody gives a shit what I'm doing. People are not thinking about Kristin's agenda, right? People don't care, but that's what I thought. Like, everyone in Prague is going to think I failed in New York, and that's why I came back. So that was one of the issues I had. And then I thought, when I give this up, there's no going back. But the question I asked myself was, where do I want to be in 10 years? And yes, probably global director role, whatever, maybe. But maybe not with a family, not with a partner, because all of the role models I had, all the women who were in those roles, did not have partners and did not have families, because the job was too demanding. And the women that I did see with the families, you know, we were in New York City, so they'd leave home at 7 in the morning, come home at 7 at night, and pump their breast milk at lunchtime. And I thought, like, that's not what I want. And I actually went to see a psychiatrist. I went on medication. I mean, when I tell you guys, this was a really, really tough life decision for me. It was hardcore. In the end, I decided to come back because I knew the answer to that question would be, I would be more disappointed if I wasn't with the man that I loved and I didn't have that family that I always dreamed of, than not having that CEO role somewhere for some advertising agency in New York. And that's the decision I made, but it was not easy because I wasn't at the time at 31, I didn't need those little babies in my hand. I didn't need the house. I didn't need the husband, but I knew I wanted it in the future and I did not want to risk not having it. So that's how I made my decision, but it was definitely hardcore. And I really am happy to say that I think, you know, 18 years or 19 years later, that women don't have to make such a decision anymore. I think after COVID, I think with all the mentoring programs we have, that we talk about gender diversity, I think it has got a lot easier to have this discussion. And the only advice, and as a mentor, I shouldn't advise, the only sharing I want to have for you is, please speak up. Speak to your employers, have discussions with them, create what you think is the best scenario and try to sell it to them. And don't come with one scenario, come with 3. And I didn't have that option. And I believe that if the same thing happened to me in 2021, I wouldn't have had to leave that job. So that was sort of a long story. Sorry, guys, but that was the big one for me. Yeah.
Thank you, Kristin. Let's go now to Tereza. What's your experience?
Yeah, I was really enjoying listening to Kristin, the role models and the competitive environment. I really reflect that as well in my career, but not really. I have to say, not really in this topic. There are other topics of authenticity and leadership styles that we take over from men. But regarding the parenthood, so I was also deciding when I was 31 years old if to move to Italy or stay in Czech. I stayed in Czech, and I gave birth to my son when I was 35 years old. I was like in mid of my career at Deloitte already at that time. And basically I enjoyed a lot, like the maternity leave. I stayed at home 1.5 years, and I really left the computer, you know, I gave it back when I was leaving for maternity leave. And I just said, okay, after 12 years of, I was working at that time already 12 years, I said, like, I deserve this. And I was looking forward for these coffees before to give the birth. Then my maternity leave, the period before you go to the hospital, it was like 2 days. So I didn't have any of these coffees, but that's fine. However, after 1 year, I started to miss the job. Really, I like to cooperate with people, do projects. I was always doing the work very intuitively, so it didn't take me a lot of effort to be good at at my job. Yeah, so I was missing it a lot. 35 years old, I was already kind of bored to go to the playgrounds. I was not this typical playground mom. My friends had the bigger kids already, so it's not that I didn't enjoy it, but it was already not all for me. It's after 1 year, it stopped to be all. So I started to send these signals, you know, to my to Deloitte, like to my boss, like maybe if there is some project, maybe if there is something that I can help with, and so on. So I went back after 1.5 years. I found I started 50%. That quickly ramped up to 100 after a few months, and I was in, and I was so happy, and it gave me so much energy. We found, I never had a nanny. We found like a childcare that my son went to, and like from the perspective of the employer and job and everything was perfect, like really everything sunny and pink. What I realized that was not so sunny was the environment around me. I mean, my close family, my mother, my sister, and also some of my close friends. So the level of acceptance of my behavior as someone that goes after 1.5 years to work, bad mother, poor kid, grow up to criminal, you will never have the bond with him again. You are losing as a your most important relationship, you know, this kind of pressure. And this was very difficult, like hearing these things from the closest ones, and those that you really were listening. My mom was really like, she had it in, she was brought up like this, so for her it's not, she was not telling this to me from like bad you know, intentions, but this destroyed me a lot. And after some months I had to take a coach. I would never manage without a coach, because I was totally like confidence zero, thinking the worst about myself. And so, like, not going into big details, but this was really very difficult for me. And I realized that basically who support me a lot was my husband and my colleagues at work, saying, we need you here, you are good, without you we were like zero, you know, and so on. My husband saying, look, in Italy they go after 6 months, you have to go working, you are needed there. So this supported me, but still the balance was very fragile. And so yeah, so my takeaway and like my thinking is that the biggest barriers for me was the social environment. And in Czech Republic, with this 4 years maternity, etc., it's really, it's there. And the closest families and the patterns, the behaviors that we are, the culture that we are living in, this for me were the biggest barriers. And I still see it as biggest barriers also when I'm looking around on my female colleagues that are struggling with the same topics. And what is the advice there? It's a long story. It's a very long heritage that we carry with us. And I think that the only thing that I can advise at this moment, what I would do differently than I did, like be more firm on what you want to do, and don't listen too much to the others, if possible.
Yeah, thanks for sharing this. I'm sure that there are many others who have family or some close friends who have different views, and it's very hard to deal with that. Great. Let's move now to Renata. What is your experience, Renata?
Yeah, my experience is different from Tereza and from Kristin in some like some part of it. I was raised in the communist regime in Czech Republic, and expectation of my mother was that I will be a kind of non-career woman. I will have kids, I will focus on my husband's happiness, and I will cook and create the good family life. And apart from that, I will have some job just to have a job. And I studied teaching because teaching for elementary school, because I thought that teachers, they have a lot of time and they have free vacation, so I will have time for my family. So, and then when I started to study university in the first year, the climate changed. There was the Velvet Revolution, and I realized that maybe there will be more opportunities for me, and maybe it's not my dream to become family focused. But still, I was raised like that, so I wanted to have kids. So when I met my future husband, we were dating sometime, then we got married, then we traveled, and then there was some pressure from the family that we are traveling too much and that we should consider to have kids. So we kind of under this pressure decided, or I was waiting for my husband to be ready for it. And it was big shock because I was used to, I worked at that time in like sales organization selling ERP system, and I was used to be among a lot of people. I was the oldest from other ladies in the small team, and I was the first who had kids. So very soon after my son was born, we kind of lost the connection because I had different topics to speak about than my former co-workers. And I was missing a lot the social interactions. So after about 13 months, I decided that I really need to do also something else than to take care of my kid. And I agreed with my employer that I will work part-time for them. It was a special arrangement that I worked on commission from sales that I delivered, and I could work like half time. So I basically worked 1 or 3 days in a week, but I was only expected to deliver results, and it was up to me how much money I make. So I could really be very flexible. So and I then we had a second son, and it worked for me very well to work only part-time. And then when my older son went to school and the younger son went to kindergarten, I decided to change and I joined Oracle. And in Oracle, I started in sales roles, and the hardest moment for me, which was really very tough, Oracle is on stock exchange. There are sales quarters, and at the end of the sales quarter, the last months, employees in sales usually don't take holidays. They try to focus as much on work as possible. And my son got sick, and he needed to go to hospital. And I wanted to go with him, but it was end of quarter, and I really needed to finalize some deal. So I agreed with my husband that he will go there for a few days and stay with my son. And then when the quarter is over, I will replace him. And I felt like the bad mother. But I would say that my son was okay. And I was really glad that my husband accepted that he will kind of switch the role, because our roles in the family were very traditional. So it was the hardest moment.
Mm-hmm. Wow, thanks everyone for being so vulnerable and really sharing what you dealt with and share it here with us. So we can move to the next question, and we will actually start with Kristin this time. My question is about a book that I read pretty recently. It's called Pick 3 from Randy Zuckerberg. I'm not sure if any of you read it, But basically, Randy, what she's saying is that you have to pick three from work, family, friends, sleep, and fitness each day to feel less stressed and more balanced. So my question is, what was your approach to a more balanced life? Did you ever have to pick any three?
Okay, well, if any of you guys know me, and none of you actually really do, I'm not a very balanced person. So I don't know if I've succeeded on this one, but there is something that I use myself, and I use it with a lot of my clients. And it's another, there's many methods you can use, but again, it goes along with the life stages. And there's videos all over, whatever, the internet and Facebook and probably Instagram. I don't use it very much, and it's called rocks, pebbles, sand. And I don't know if you guys have seen it, but supposedly, I don't know if this is a myth, but there was some professor at university in California, and his students said, "Hey, Mr. Professor, can you tell us how to prioritize?" And basically what he did was he took two vases, or like glass jars, and he had the same size of rocks, pebbles, sand on each side. And in the first one, he put in the sand, then he put the pebbles, and then he put the rocks. So they didn't all fit, so some of them were falling over the side. And the other one, he started first with the rocks, and then he put the pebbles in and he shook them around. And then at the end, he poured on the sand and he shook it around, and it took some time, but it all fit. And so if you use that metaphor, and I'm sharing this with you because it is helpful, and sometimes you just have to take a step back. Sometimes you can find a friend or a mentor or a coach who can help you with it, but you can also do it yourself. And you can say, you know, what are the rocks in my life? And the rocks are basically the things that you really can't live without. So that's your health, that's your family, that's your kids. For you guys, it might be your career, it might be your best friend, it might be your mother, I don't know. And they change in time. And then what are the things that are important, but they're really nice to have, but you don't necessarily need them. And all the sand is all of the bullshit that we put into our lives and we maybe don't need. And if you put them in those three areas, and you really like take a reflection every week of, you know, did I do enough? Did I focus enough on the rocks in my life? And one of the things I noticed, this isn't so much about bringing up kids, but one of the things I noticed during the past year and the lockdown was that a lot of my time was spent on being busy, because people energize me. And when I'm busy, I feel energized, but doesn't necessarily mean I feel fulfilled. And so because all of that sand was taken away, and even most of the pebbles, I mean, all that was left, luckily, was my health, my family, some work. I mean, the real basics were left there. And you realize, wow, what the hell was I spending all the rest of my time on? And so that's been a helpful way to look at it. When I was a mother, I remember when I was home with the kids for many years, but that's also because I'm like an extreme baby lover and kids. Like, I love kids and I love babies. I probably should have had 10 kids, but I also wanted to go back to work, but otherwise I probably would have. So I really enjoyed my kids when they were little. And what I did was put a lot of my energy in to things that I could enjoy with my kids and enjoy myself. So I organized lots of play groups. I was part of a nonprofit organization. I taught children's classes. I volunteered at the Shkolka. Like, I did things that engaged the kids, but still fulfilled me. So, but I remember when my husband said, like, okay, okay, today's your day, you're gonna have the free time. And I would go work. And he would be like, well, I thought it was your day off. And I said, yeah, but that's what I want to do on my day off. Because at that time, I wasn't working so much. So working was my joy, right? And I think it was Renata who brought up something extremely important, that when you ladies or men are looking into this next life stage of potentially having children and trying to balance it all, it's not only your employer, and I'll talk about that later in another question, but it's also the partner you have there. And the rules that you set up of how you are going to share raising kids. It's a lot of work. It's not the same thing as living together. We're not just talking about domestic things. Yeah, we're talking about taking care of the kids, bathing the kids, reading to the kids. I mean, it goes much further than cleaning the apartment and cooking, which I, by the way, don't do. And I never did it. So I think that's a really important thing, a really important discussion to have if you are considering having kids. You know, I would look back at my life and say the single most important decision I made in my life was not how many kids I had or where I lived or what job I took. It was which partner I chose. So I'll end it there because we'll come up to the other stuff.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Tereza? What was your approach to a more balanced life?
Yeah, I kind of like the quotation that you need to choose this 3 from the 5. I love to sleep. I love to do yoga, and so on and so on. But I think, and I think that I don't believe that there is a balance. When there is a balance, that you can really grow. And I think that all the big successes and achievements, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think that they were never achieved in a state of balance. So I don't know. I feel that you need to go into discomfort, and the bigger the discomfort is, the bigger the gain will be for you, whether it is sport, politics, business, motherhood, whatever, you know, personal growth. So I think that what I'm always asking myself, there is a price of everything. There is a price of sleeping 10 hours per day. But would I benefit from this, sleeping 10 hours per day? And would it bring me to the goals where I want to be in 5, 10, 20, 100 years? I don't know. When I will be dying, I will be happy that I slept 10 hours per day. Yeah, it's like a parallel there, but I think this has to be considered every time you are taking some important decision. And having a baby is a very important decision. Choosing a partner is a very important decision, but also deciding that you want a career is a very important decision. And for me personally, having influence, to be able to have impact on things that I want to change in world, in society, in my small playground where I play, being at Deloitte and in Czech Republic, etc. It requires going to this discomfort and really deciding that you will sacrifice something. So, and this again is very individual, and everyone has a unique way of thinking about this. And for example, if someone's purpose is to have a big family, I would probably say with 4 kids, do career in consulting, possible, but I would say very, very heavy duty. For me personally, having 4 kids would be a nightmare. I'm like, yeah, everyone is different. So I would say that if you want to really influence things, if you want to be changer, if you want to be the trendsetter in business, you most probably should, I don't say not having kids, but you should probably not think about having a school bus, yeah, at home. and it's something that you, if you need to be, if you want to be at the top of something, you want to be really good at it, you it's your main life goal, and it's your value that you really care for. You should also think about the other aspects of life and of your roles. And so I'm not really into this balance, yeah. But I think that there is always, and I like this stages approach. I think that maybe if you talk to me in 5 years, I'm looking at the things in a completely different way.
Mm-hmm. And Renata, what is your approach to a more balanced life?
Yeah, I have to say that I don't have a very balanced life either. And I want to mention something that was important for me when I started to build my career. I tend to stay long in the office, like being at 9 o'clock in the evening in the office. It was nothing special. It was quite common for me. And my boss at that time told me, what you are doing here, you should understand that human body is not constructed in a way that you can work 12, 14 hours every day. 8 hours is perfect. And if you need to work more, fine, but only occasionally. And I think that I am trying to obey this I can't remember this advice. So, and I really try to use it at work. In normal days, I start at 9, finish at 6. But when needed, I work on vacation in the evenings or in public holidays, but only when it's needed. And also when kids were younger, I knew that I have to leave work latest at 6:30 because I need to do groceries, to shop, and I need to arrive home at certain time to replace the babysitter. So I got used to not waste too much time at work by like chit-chatting with the other people, but plan and try to be not to waste too much time, to be able to combine my family life with my professional life.
Great, thanks for sharing. Let's move to the next question. And let's talk a bit about the situation in the Czech Republic. So it's a known fact that there aren't that many women in the leadership in the Czech Republic because women take a longer parental leave. There isn't a good child care system in the 0 to 3 category, and also not all employers support flexible work. All these, they actually make women stay with the child at home for a while, which can stagnate their career. How did you, I know some of you already talked about this, but how did you handle all these? And let's maybe start with Tereza.
So I think that I'm lucky. I think that choosing a partner and choosing a company that you work for are very important aspects of this. And so I was able, and again, I have one kid, so I don't have 2 kids. I believe that it might be a bit different, but it was again like my choice. It was very helpful when I realized that my husband cooks very well. we share housework, we share everything. Like you would barely see us separated. This is very important. He is supporting me a lot. It was quite shocking when some men colleagues were asking me if my husband is unemployed, that I can have this career because he has a full-time career. Yeah. So he, I think that and Kristin mentioned that this is very important aspect, like sharing your life with person that has values that are aligned to yours. And if I had a man probably at home who thinks that my place is in the kitchen, I would never be able to live a life that I like. The second thing is that Deloitte is, and my boss is very positive about giving the possibility to work part-time. So he was like, he told me then when I was sending the signals that I want to go back to work, he said, you know, I wanted to ask you already half year ago, but I was shy because I thought that you want to stay at home longer. So it was then quite funny to listen to each other's stories. how we were waiting for the other to come. So so my experience in this was really good partial work. I know that it's not supported everywhere, but here I would recommend just ask for it. The more we will be asking for it, the more the employers will be pushed to provide it, because they need us. They need women leadership and women way of thinking and doing things, especially in these times when the teams are falling apart because they're online. And I think that our role is getting more and more important in that. So yeah, and then these practicalities, like we have a cleaning lady. I outsourced the cleaning. I didn't want to outsource the baby care, so I never had a nanny, and we didn't go 2 years for dinner. That's it. We try to be very independent in these things, like a family. I'm paying a private school to my son so that it's open till 6 o'clock. Now it's closed. It's closed all the day, so it doesn't pay off. But yeah, so these are the single, like these small things that you can afford also because you are working, and it's this cycle that that goes round and round. So basically, for me, it was quite easy in this organizational way and in the way how to go back to work. Of course, it's a very different story now during COVID, when you have a second grader at home who really is a boy that is very energetic. He doesn't want to stay 3 hours in front of the online schooling. So, for example, last week I took completely off, and I'm now on 50%, and I'm waiting. So it needs day-to-day adjustments, and this situation that is currently that we are living is very different to what I was living 3 or 4 years ago when my son was, let's say, 4 years old. But always, I would always say, like, always speak up, ask for things that you need, because you have a full right for that. And the employers, if they will not be asked, they will not do it. And as you said, like, HR will not come to you and say, would you like to, I don't know, have 50%? No, you have to ask for it.
Great advice. Kristin, do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much everything Tereza said is like straight on. And I think it's one of the mistakes, you know, I hear a lot because of the nature of my work as a coach. And, you know, it works because I'm not connected to these women. You know, I'm not their friend, although we wind up being friends usually. You know, I'm not their sister. I'm not their boss, their colleague, nothing. So they share with me their deepest, you know, dreams or visions or frustrations. And I often just say, well, did you tell your boss, or did you ask, or did you share it with your husband? And they said no. And, you know, but then we go through the whole discussion, why, and the fear and, you know, I think it's often just getting the courage. You know, we make these assumptions. I mean, exactly what Tereza said me about her, shared with us about her boss. I was coaching years ago, a CFO of a big company, and his HR director left on maternity leave, and he didn't want to fulfill it because he really was excited to have her back. So he was doing 2 jobs. And, you know, in one of our coaching sessions, he said, I'm just exhausted. I'm not really I'm not an HR expert. I really need her back. And I said, well, why don't you call her and talk to her about it? He said, no, she's on maternity leave. I can't do it. I said, look, as a woman, I can share with you that every woman on maternity leave, even if they say no, even if they choose no, they will be happy to hear they're appreciated, because we don't hear we're appreciated when we're home as moms. And it was such a funny discussion. I mean, he had a call, and a week later she was in on 50%, and he called me, he said, that was so great, thank you. But it's like, you know, we have all these stereotypes in our head. And one of the things I want to point out to you, because I'm American and because I was coming from New York City, one of the things that made me decide to come back to the Czech Republic was that I felt it was like almost inhumane, our maternity leave in the States. You have to be back at work after 90 days. And if you're not back after 90 days, you don't have your job anymore. They don't hold it for you. So I don't think the Czech system is perfect, but the American one is no better. And I think exactly what Tereza said, that you ladies and you men, I see that we have Matthew on here, speak up for what you want. It's not our job as women to raise our children. It's our job as parents. And I coach a guy who's in Google. I've been working with him for years. And he went on paternity leave. And, I'm still old school. And we were in whatever coaching session. He said, yeah, I'm going to take 4 months off. And I was like, oh, okay. So how will you do that? Like, will you go in once a week? Will you get on the calls? He said, no, I'm taking 4 months off. I mean, he's like a leader in the region. And I was like, oh, and I realized that I even have my own biases, that how could you do that? And what was amazing, that when he came back after 4 months and he really checked in only a few times, he said it was the best leadership move that I made, because my team all stepped up their game while I was gone. And they proved that they can lead this. And it was just amazing. And so let's not put this all on the women. It's on a conversation to have. And Tereza hit the nail on the head. All of you, including you, Matthew, and any other, I don't see any other guys on the phone, you need to speak up about what you want. Come with the plan, have a few options, practice it with a few people, testing it out before you go to HR or to your boss, and sell it. That is your job. And that's the mistake that we have made in the past. If we have time, I'll tell you a funny story later, but I don't think we're going to have time.
And Renata, is there anything you would like to add to this too?
No, yeah, maybe I just mentioned a few minutes ago that I had a babysitter. I hired her full time because I calculated that when I go to work, I will still have enough left for me if I pay the babysitter, and I will feel much better because I'm a really social person. And it worked well. The only obstacle was that my mother-in-law thought that it is strange that some strange person, not from the family, is doing my laundry. And when she was visiting the family, she tried to do it instead of her, and she managed to shrink few things. And I asked my husband to speak to her because she told me, I'm not doing laundry. I'm not doing laundry. It just, she was just like that. It was impossible to solve. And then when kids got bigger, I didn't need it, the babysitter, and it somehow solved.
Great. So let's move to the last question, and we can actually stay with you, Renata. Is there any final advice you have for women who are at this intersection of parenthood and career?
Yeah, definitely. What I see at work, we have some ladies in the team, and some of them were postponing the motherhood until they wanted 2 kids, and now they have 1, and they are happy that they have at least 1, because the second it's difficult after 40. And now we have in team 32 years old girl. She is extremely good salesperson. I'm really very happy to have her. But when she told me that she's pregnant, I told her that it is fantastic news, and that that this is the priority. She can come back, and I told her that I will do everything to be able to have her back in the team, because women have limited time to become mothers.
That's true. Yeah, thanks. That's great support from you. What about you, Tereza? Do you have some final advice?
Yeah, I have one. Do your best when with whichever role you choose that is the priority for you, whether are 2 or 3 roles. Do your best in it, but don't give up to be perfect, because no one will notice that you are working on 80% rather than on 100. So that was my little advice that could help.
Thank you. And Kristin, what is your final advice?
Well, first I'll say to Renata and Tereza, thanks. I think I connected with you very much, even though it's through screen. I a lot of things resonated with me. And Renata, as a leader and a role model, it's really important that you support women, that this is, you know, the kids are not small forever. Unfortunately, they grow up. I have teenagers and that's hard as well. But I think what I would say is, you know, because this is a mentoring program, use your mentors, use your trusted, they don't always have to be friends, use someone that you trust, whether it's a mentor or a coach or someone that you know, and talk to them about really what you want. Because a lot of times we keep it in, and I only know this because I coach people, and all of a sudden something flies out and they go, oh my God, where did that come from, you know? Really try to put aside what your mother says and your mother-in-law and society and work and your boss and all of this, and really listen to yourself and put it down and be good to yourself. It's not about anybody else's life. It's not about anyone else's life. And if some of you are single women and want to have a child on your own, go for it. If you're a single guy, you're a gay couple, you're whatever, I mean, go for it. Who cares what other people think? It's your life. And that's, I guess, my advice is spend the time to really look inward and be true to yourself. Because at the end of the day, to be happy for somebody else is not true happiness. And that's it. And I wish you all a lot of luck. And if you're going to have babies, call me. I'll come hold them. I love babies. Okay.
Thank you, Kristin. I love what you said.